how much time do we have for the next screening?
You're fine.
Okay, cool.
You're ready. You can close the house.
Yes.
Yes.
I want them to hear you first. I don't know whether it works.
Sir, your film was so lovely, and I wanted to mention virtually every shot was so beautiful, and I wondered how far you deviated, if at all, from your storyboards and your map of your film, and how much you improvised. Thanks.
Thank you. You want this? I don't know. Okay.
There's a switch.
Switch. Wait a second. Running out of batteries? Well, always, when you make a movie, you just have to be open for what is happening. So, well, for example, we came to the set and there was this fog, and the production manager said, "Okay, everybody back to the hotel. We cannot shoot. There is this fog." And I'm seeing these horses coming, and he goes over the radio and says, "Okay, all the horses are going back to the stables." And I see this fantastic image of these horses coming at me and saying, yelling, "Stop, stop, I want to shoot these horses." So we shot these horses on a no-shooting day. And then I was showing to my friend this in New York, and he said, "Oh, I know this the special effects guy from Australia who does this perfect fog." Yeah, we got him, yes. So, you always have to be open to what is the Almighty providing for you on the given day. And you cannot throw out, it's often that I see in the movies that people come out and just look at this cloud and things, and they have the pre-concept of what they want to do. Sometimes they just don't work, or say, "Oh, I cannot shoot because of this and that and whatever. It doesn't fit my vision." I'd rather work the other way around. I just see what is given to me, and I try to do the best out of it, because I think it's presumptuous to think that you're making the film alone. Apart from your associates and fantastic people around you and actors and whoever, there's also the powers above who make the movie with you, or they don't. Yes?
I have a question about the location. I can speak loudly.
Rudiger doesn't believe you.
Okay, thank you. My question is about the locations, because
Yes.
visually it seems like things are so intentionally, beautifully artificial with these, melding it into the painting with this, glorious mountain and the mill on it, and yet. Usually what you hear is people using the artificial to make it look real. And here, I looked at the locations, New Zealand and Austria, and so there's obviously a lot of real texture being worked into this, and using the real to make it look artificial. How did that? What were the locations? What role did they play? Where did they come in?
Well, first of all, we painted out the characters from in the Photoshop. We painted out the characters from the Bruegel painting, and we look at this painting, and we decided, or we analyzed it with the computer, that there is not a singular Renaissance perspective in this painting, but there are various perspectives, different perspectives. So the landscape that Bruegel provides for us doesn't exist. So how he came about these various points of view? The obvious solution was he walked around with his sketchbook and sketched all sorts of landscape. When he was assembling it into a canvas, he was selecting whatever pleased him and whatever he felt makes a composition, and he was putting it together on the canvas. And smack in the middle of the Flemish landscape, he put a shooting rock that he actually managed to draw when he made a singular journey through the Alps to Italy. And being born in the flat Flanders, which is the sea, I mean, it's all like extremely flat. Suddenly this man in his like late 20s travels and sees these mountains, and he's having Hosanna. I mean, he stands and draws these mountains and the rocks, and then he comes back and paints those rocks in the middle of flatlands. So obviously for him, the rock, from those times, the rock had a number of meanings, because the rock, with its cracks, was the body and the wounds. And also the rock, we build the church on the rock, and so therefore you have the mill, which is positioned on the rock, which is absurd. I mean, you cannot produce flour out of the mill like that. So it's obviously it's the.
And then the director is in post-production and gets another Hosanna moment because he just happens to be in New Zealand and he sees another sky for the film. And he goes, hell, I'm going to bring it down. Right?
Yeah, well, I was invited to New Zealand to do lectures on the hidden language of symbols in art. And when I was driving with my wife through New Zealand, I mean, I looked up and I saw these fantastic formations of clouds, and I called my friends at Weta Productions that produced the Lord of the Rings, and they managed to hire a DP who shot this cloud formation, because I thought this is really something that is existing on Bruegel canvases. So we're going to merge those clouds with Bruegel clouds. So there was like 80% of New Zealand clouds, 20% of Bruegel clouds, others. But the problem was that the New Zealand clouds were moving, but Bruegel clouds were not moving. So we had to dissect the Bruegel clouds from the painting and attach it to the New Zealand clouds and move it together. So there was various, I mean, we spent 2 years in post-production of this movie, and I felt like we were weaving this enormous tapestry with these young people behind the computers, various computers, counting all these pixels and cutting Rutger Hauer's hair to fit it into the landscape. Because, you know, we shot Rutger against the blue screen, and then we had to position him in those landscapes, because we were, actually, once we painted out the figures from the Bruegel painting, we realized there are various points of view. We divided it into those various points of view, and on a diaphragm, we were walking around and looking at the landscape. Oh, this one looks a little bit like Bruegel, oh, this one is better. And then we were shooting it with the camera. And then the guys at the post-production house were getting those pieces of landscape, and they were just merging them together. So, following the Bruegel's lead, we were recreating it from the reality. So we are going back from sketching.
I'm coming.
Here.
Go around.
I was just going to ask if you would tell us a little bit more about the mill, especially the interior.
Oh,
that you
yeah.
designed.
You mean the interior of the rock, of the interior of the mechanism?
Both, really.
Well, the interior of the rock is really a salt mine in Poland, and we just had to build all these steps, and some of them exist, some of them we added, and we figured out, because once I got from the Kunsthistorische Museum the excellent reproduction, I mean the very precise laser beam scan of the original painting, so we could actually throw it on a canvas like this and look at the details, which were like very precise. I realized that there are 2 windows in the rock on the original painting. So I started to think, okay, if these are windows, there must be somebody inside. And I saw these people, I mean, if this rock is so high, somebody's walking up to the mill there. And where do we get shafts like that? And where do we get interiors like that? And then somebody said, hey, Lech, there is this Polish salt mine, which is like from Middle Ages. And we have shafts like that there. So I traveled there, I saw it, and I said, well, that makes a good interior of the rock. That's it. As far as these mechanisms, some of them we had to build, some of them we actually managed to move around in another mine, which used those kind of wheels and cogwheels and what have you. So it's a combination of various places, some of them in Czech Republic, some of them in Poland, some of them in Austria. So it's an assembly, because you won't get mechanisms like that nowadays.
Another question here.
When I look at a Bruegel painting, I notice a lot of layering in the scenes. And I wonder if you drew from many of his other paintings, specifically for the children and the village scenes. And I noticed the Tower of Babel in the background several times, which seemed to symbolize the chaos and senselessness of what was happening at that time. Could you comment on that for me?
Well, yes, I mean, we realize that we are entering this world, and although we are in a single painting, but we are in his aesthetics and in his oeuvre, in all of his work. So, you know, once we follow these characters, they had obviously houses. Peter Bruegel had his family, very rich family, and so it was like natural, but obviously we found some scansens that had the old houses, and but what we found out behind the windows of those scansen houses were just nothing. So we had to position all sorts of blue screens behind the windows, so we could later on plant all these birds and wheels and gallows and stuff that comes out from Bruegel painting. So if you see Charlotte Rampling in the window, and we just shot her in one of these houses with a blue screen behind it, and then the guys at the post-production had to put this whole scene and populate with people. And each of this group that you see was shot separately on a blue screen, and then you could put these people inside that landscape where you want, you know, so you can, but in order to get the depth of it, in order to get, you have to put layers of air, like sfumato, you have to put the perspective, the air perspective between that. So ultimately it's real, yet, as this gentleman said, it is the real that is falsified through this process of putting it all together. So everybody was going like, why are you doing this? This is so, I mean, there must be an easier way of doing it. Like, I mean, come on, you're destroying these characters behind the computer screens.
Well, but on some days we had like 150 people standing there like this, like you saw, you know. Right? There's a question here.
Well, of course, unfortunately, I feel very political right now. But
Get over it.
except that the actor played a politician.
I don't know.
Anyway, he
Does
played,
it matter?
no, because he had this kind of, oh, I feel so much, so badly. And I watch him being stoned. So, I mean, that's so real. Nothing ever changes.
Yeah.
And so, even though it happened 100 years ago,
Yeah.
it'll happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Especially, it made me think also what happened to that politician, the woman.
You want to sign a paper?
Yes. And so, it really brings up all kinds of feelings about people looking and doing nothing, but
this is not a question. This is just a
This
statement.
is a statement. No, it's a promise. It's a promise.
Did you think about that in terms of making this character kind of blasé, kind of like, it's not my fault. I feel very badly about this, but I'm not doing anything.
You know, at those times, the major entertainment was to kill somebody and torture in public. So when there was a carnival in a given city, the carnival was in the name of a certain saint. If they didn't have somebody to torture, they were buying it from another city, from the prison. A person, a convict. And this convict, I mean, was bought for money, brought to the city where the carnival was. And he was tortured in a way that if I would present it on the screen, people would just run from the theater. And that was the entertainment. Nothing has changed.
Oh, wait, I have the microphone here, so I'll be right there.
Dobry wieczór. Chciałam się zapytać, czy Pan będzie pokazywał ten film w Polsce?
That's a Polish question, and I'm going to show the movie in Poland. Yes, I
I
think.
thought I was here.
Yes, it opens in March in Poland. There are two.
I'd just like you just to comment on the choice of using English and Spanish as the two languages, and why you chose not to subtitle the Spanish.
Well, there are much more languages being spoken there. There's some German there, and there is Flemish. I found a village in Poland, with people, it's called Wilamowice village, with people who came from Holland 400 years ago. And they managed to retain the original old Flemish language, which is now considered a fossilized language. So there are people coming from around the world to record them and to listen to them, because nobody speaks this language anymore, but in this village they do. The funny thing is that there is this 18-year-old boy there who was not born there. He came with his parents, who are doctors, and they take care of these rather older people who live in this village. And he was brought up by a nanny, Wilamowice old lady, who spoke this language to him, and he became so enamored with the language, with the customs that they have, that he opened a little museum, and by now he is a world expert. He travels because he speaks this language, and he's 19 years old, and he travels with some linguistic professors around the world and speaks this language on all sorts of. It's a very strange story, I thought. But anyhow, it's these people I recorded is singing, any singing in this movie, or these background noises that people, the crowd, conversations, are the peasants from Wilamowice who speak this 400-year-old language. So that was for me interesting. I love this thing that when you do the period piece, that you can actually dig out things, unearth things that are completely forgotten, and that film actually can carry it. So I always read the daily life at those times, because this okay.
Well, just my question was the English used for commercial reasons, or did you feel artistically that maintained the integrity?
Well, my actors were basically English spoken, and I am American as well as Polish. I am doing films in English and in Polish sometimes, depends on the subject. It was natural. I mean, Rutger Hauer, Charlotte Rampling, Michael York. When I was writing this story, I saw Rutger as Bruegel. He was for me just, once I saw a drawing also of what is purported as the only self-portrait of Bruegel, it looked like Rutger. So it was just an instant. What am I going to do with Rutger? Speak Polish?
Yeah, Flemish maybe, but no, it is, you know, the language is always a bit tricky because there's one language, you know, in a film where you have some language and you want to make it accessible, you might as well go for English. But, you know, I don't think Merkel had an American accent. I mean, you know, that's kind of wacky. I hope you forget it after a while. Who's next? Oh, yeah.
My question was, how did you find funding for a project like this?
Well, I'm a producer.
So it was easy?
Funnily enough, it was. Strangely enough, I would imagine at the outset that this is the hardest project to get the funding for. But fortunately, it was fairly easy. I mean, a lot of people responded in a positive way. And also Polish television, Polish Film Institute, and we had a Swedish co-producer and various companies. Well, you know, the most expensive is a tricky thing because we had an English production manager who counted all the time that we spent on computers and post-production, and he came to the figure of 23 million pounds. So, obviously, we didn't have this money. But we had all sorts of post-production houses who knew that I am this guy who does these visual things, and they want to show off that they are capable of doing these things. So they said, okay, Lech, I mean, we know you are this person that pushes hard